It was with this chilling sentence that Oleg destroyed 3 years of marriage in just a few seconds. When Elia came home that evening, arms full of groceries, she expected to return to her home. But instead, she found her husband sitting on the couch, cold, distant, his eyes glued to his phone as if he were reading the weather forecast. "Pack your things. The buyers are coming on Friday." Elia froze. Her bag slipped from her hands. The oranges started rolling across the floor in a terrifying silence. "What buyers?" Oleg looked up at her without the slightest emotion. "For your apartment. We're selling it in 3 days. We need the money." Her apartment, the one her mother had left her. The only place in the world where she still felt like she could hear her voice. But that wasn't the worst part. When Elia reminded him that the apartment belonged to her alone, Oleg smiled. A dirty, calculated smile, almost satisfied. "Do you remember the document you signed 3 years ago when we expanded the business?" "Yes." "You should have read it." At that moment, everything collapsed. She had signed without knowing, out of love, out of trust, and he had turned that trust into a weapon against her. As if that weren't enough, her mother-in-law came out of the kitchen, a contemptuous smile at the corner of her lips. "Did you really think we were going to ask your permission? Oleg is my son, I'm on his side." Together, they looked at her as if she were nothing, as if this woman who shared their home, their life, their meals, was just another obstacle to crush. Then, Oleg took out a paper, a power of attorney, her signature. He had told her it was for insurance. In reality, he was using it to sell her apartment behind her back. That evening, Elia understood one thing: she was not living with a husband. She was living with a man capable of stealing her home while looking her straight in the eye. So, she didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't make a scene. She went into the bedroom, took out an old suitcase, and started packing her things. Oleg followed her, suddenly nervous. "Wait, don't make a big deal out of this. We'll sort it out." "Sort out what?" she replied, looking him straight in the eye. "Give me back my apartment." He fell silent because he knew. He knew he had gone too far. A few minutes later, the mother-in-law called out from the living room with an almost monstrous satisfaction. "Don't be surprised, darling. Our business has collapsed, so we're selling your apartment. End of story." Elia didn't even respond. She took her suitcase and left. In the freezing stairwell, her hands trembling, she called Rita, her best friend. "Can I come over, just for tonight?" "Of course. What happened? I'll explain later." That night, something changed inside her. The fear was still there, and so was the pain. But in the midst of her tears, another strength was born. The next morning, a man called her. It was the buyer of her apartment. He had already paid a deposit. His family was ready to move in. He too had just realized that he had been manipulated. Elia could have collapsed. Instead, she decided to fight. With the help of a lawyer, she discovered the most important thing: a power of attorney can be revoked. That very day, she went to the notary's office. With trembling hands, but a determined look, she signed the document that would change everything. "From now on, your husband can no longer act on your behalf." With one sentence, she had just taken back control of her life. That evening, her phone blew up. Calls from Oleg, angry messages, threats, then a message from her mother-in-law. "You're going to destroy my son. I hope your conscience kills you first." But this time, Elia didn't give in. When she finally called Oleg back, the truth came out. He had racked up a huge debt with a former associate. Monstrous interest, threats. And to get out of it, he had chosen the most cowardly solution: sacrificing his wife. "I had no choice," he murmured. "Yes, you did. You could have told me the truth." Then she said the words that ended everything. "We're getting a divorce." The weeks that followed were hard. Very hard. But little by little, Elia returned home, to her apartment, the one her mother had left her, the one they had tried to steal from her. She filed for divorce. Oleg tried to break her down all the way to court. His mother kept insulting her. But this time, Elia no longer trembled. In court, the masks came off, the lies became tangled, the manipulations were exposed for all to see, and the verdict was delivered. The divorce was granted. The apartment remained with Elia, the debts remained with Oleg. That day, she didn't feel vengeful. only an immense sense of relief. Sometime later, sitting in a cafe with Rita, she finally smiled for real. "You've changed," her friend said to her. "Yes," Aaliyah replied, watching the snow fall outside the window. "Because at some point, you realize that no one is going to come save you, and you have to become your own strength." Her marriage had collapsed. Her illusions had too. But amid the ruins, she had found something much more precious: herself. And when she opened the door to her apartment that evening, welcomed by calm, warmth, and silence, she understood a simple but powerful truth. You can lose everything except yourself, as long as you have the courage to get back up.